trying to figure out how to address all the comments we heard from the BOC members, from staff, from just everybody that we could talk to about this, and have come up with two slightly different options that are kind of within the same vein, and wanted to walk them through both of them with you guys this evening, and answer any questions, then talk about next steps. Just to reiterate on the boards and on your screens, this is the current property assemblage. The blue parcels are city-owned pieces. The yellow parcel, I know Mark and the city have been talking about for some time, and then the green parcels are owned by Mark and his team. And so this is the property that we are looking at planning. So our first concept is the one that we can see right here. And to kind of orient you, where's my laser? This is North Mount Juliet Road right here. And this is East Caldwell here on the right. So you're kind of looking northeast at this, at the City Hall block. Going a little more detail into the site plan, you've got, right, and what our plan is a lot of the feedback we got about our original plan that we talked about last July was concern about the shared parking garage, about the parking share, and the financial arrangements between the city and the private entities. And so after a bunch of work, what we've decided to do is split everything wholly from a legal entity standpoint, so that the City Hall and City Hall parking is completely separate from all the private stuff. So city has its fee simple property. The office, retail, multifamily all has its fee simple buildings, property. We pay taxes on it. Everything's very separate. And so all of that complicated financial arrangement, maintenance, who stripes the garage, all that stuff just gets very, very simplified. A lot of the conversations we've had, it seems like, there's some financial situations that the city's in that makes this a little bit easier from that side also. So that's great to hear. But running through the program, kind of starting on the northeast. So we are sitting about right there. Sorry, some of the medicines I'm on got my hands a little shaky. So building 1 on the north west corner, that is going to be a grocery store with a little bit of retail and possibly second story office on the top on North Mount Juliet Road and East Hill Street. We have been talking to a local grocery store tenant that we're actually really excited about. They're excited about it also. One of the things we like about this particular tenant is they do a lot of things other than just a standard grocery store. If you think of a Kroger, Publix, there's no glass, there's no street level activation because they've got coolers or the deli or whatever on those exterior walls. This particular concept has a coffee shop, it's got a sandwich shop, it's got all that stuff that they're excited about, shoving that to the outside so it looks like you've got restaurants and then the grocery in the middle. So it's a kind of the best of both worlds. Going down plan south and actual south is a restaurant building 2. It's about a 6,200 square foot footprint. Been talking to a Italian steakhouse that's got some interest. Again, we'll go back to the timing. This is all pretty far off the way we're going to sequence it, just like we were before. Build City Hall, move everybody into the new City Hall, and then demo the existing. So that sequence is obviously not tomorrow. On this plan, building 3 on the corner is a 2 or 3 story ground floor retail office above, fully private. And then City Hall is right here off the street a little bit, kind of the heart of the project. I'm sorry, the building 3 is 1 or 2 stories, excuse me. The idea being you've got buildings 2 and 3 are lower. And so you'll see City Hall kind of rising above those lower stories buildings in the front. The idea with City Hall is you kind of have 2 front entrances. So this northern portion of the building would kind of a big plaza on the ground level. So you'd be able to, it'd be a front door on both sides to come in, and you're really not turning your back on either piece. And then on buildings 5, 6, and 7 here are the multifamily component in about the same place they were on our old plan. And then the multifamily only will have a 2-level parking garage here. And what we're doing and how we shifted this from the original plan to adapt for the lack of parking. We have a 60 space parking lot surface lot right here. Plan on having some additional parallel, 5-minute spaces in front of City Hall for people to run in and pay their water bill, drop off submissions, etc. But the biggest portion is, as we all know from this property, there's quite a bit of fall from East Hill down to Caldwell. So our plan is to take the elevation at East Hill Street and connect it and carry it all the way across the top of the property. And so until you get right down to East Caldwell and then bring it back down to grade. So you don't ever see that exposed area. And so what then happens is you get a big kind of rectangle here, half of which would be the private parking underneath the buildings, half of which would be the city's parking underneath. And so that way we take cars are ugly. We need them. We want them accessible. Done a lot of parking garages, know how to make them seem warm and inviting and safe and all of those things. It's ceiling height and lighting and not making your spaces too narrow. Luckily it's not rocket science. And so we think by doing that, we've really accomplished all of those goals. And candidly, as we really dug in to the topography and how this property dives down and where it dives down, we think we can do that pretty cost effectively, and it'll really make the whole plaza pop, and it'll keep everything on that one pedestrian oriented level. Looking at the second concept, the difference is on the East Caldwell and North Mount Juliet Road corner. So the City Hall and that 1 or 2 story building swap. So as you're coming north on North Mount Juliet Road, again, that's this road right here. Caldwell's here going off to the east. The first thing you'd see as you're coming north from the interstate would be City Hall. And then the smaller building to the back, and then the rest of the buildings lay out exactly the same way. So that site plan looks like this. Again, buildings 3 and 4 have swapped, and that's really the only difference. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, and parking garage stay basically the same. The City Hall building, it's more square, so you get that same footprint with just oriented different. So it's, squares are more efficient footprints than rectangles, depending on how you do them. I think building 2 might be a tad smaller, but either way works. The parking lot here has the same number of parking spaces, and we have the same ability to kind of do a shared parking garage under, with, again, the city having its own portion that we build first, and then the private portion being second, and being, physically separated so that nobody's worried about somebody parking in each other's space. Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
So with concept number 2, how many entrances are you looking at? Just one primary entrance?
To City Hall?
Yeah.
We would still do the same. Whoops, wrong button. We would still do the same thing. So we would look at having a main entrance here off the plaza, and then probably have one right here for the availability of the folks coming in on using some of these parallel and head-in spaces right there. So the idea would still be the same, that you've because you don't want to ever have City Hall have its back on that middle of the plaza. So our, again, very high level concept is to really have the front portion of City Hall to be kind of a lobby that people come in from 2 sides. The next step is obviously designing the building and really diving in and working with the city folks to do that. But that's our vision that we're trying to articulate, possibly poorly here now.
And currently right now with the square footage, and obviously you and the city manager had been discussing that, what is the current use of occupancy based off that square footage?
So what we're looking at is building same as the original plan, 40,000 square foot building, and TI build out of 30,000 feet. So the idea is to give the city another 10,000 square feet of growth capacity within the building. Does that answer your question, or were you asking for a head count?
Nope.
Okay.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, the program of the buildings and the uses has not changed substantially since the plan we presented to you guys in July. It's just how they fit out on the building. I think we've got a little bit more commercial space, a little bit more retail, but the multifamily and the City Hall buildings are the same size.
Last question.
Please.
Building C.
Yes.
Can you go into some detail on that?
Yes, sir. So this was a comment that we got towards the end of working up through this concept. Originally, we had planned to move the fire station to Building C, and a couple of different folks kind of said, hey, with the new station you guys have coming online, it may make more sense from I'm not going to know the right term, the positioning of your fire trucks to not have the fire station be there. I quickly got over my head in conversations about where that could go. Not that I don't know where they're going, but how they design that for response times with traffic patterns and everything else. The other comment was there may or may not be better use for that hard corner with North Mount Juliet Road value to go there. We're kind of ambivalent either way. The math that we're showing shows that becoming a private space, and I want to say it's about a 2,800 square foot building, if I'm remembering correctly. 4,500, excuse me. But we would be happy to have that come back and be the fire station, if that's the will of the council.
I can jump in about the fire station. That was probably feedback that come from myself. There was a proposal to build a fire station out on Old Lebanon Dirt Road at one point, being discussed, plus building a new station here. And my question was about moving the station slightly south, which covered Old Lebanon Dirt Road, eliminated the need for a station there as well with the coverage. Plus, with the new one coming online, it's going to be covering the north, which has slightly less calls anyway. So I looked at it as an opportunity to try to eliminate about $3.5 million of reoccurring cost to us from adding another station and trying to consolidate it. Because whether this project happens or doesn't happen or whatever happens here has no bearing on the fact that we have to replace that station back there either way. So that's something we got to take on.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I missed that. So thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. So those are the two major differences in the site plan. It really is building 3 and 4 swapping. Okay. Coming into the exciting stuff, City Hall construction costs. We are looking at a 40,000 square foot building. We have been talking to a general contractor who has built government office buildings in Middle Tennessee. They are looking at a shell cost. They're very, very early, very, very high level, gives a range. We went kind of in the middle of that range, got a shell cost of $260.75 a square foot. And then a build out cost on 30,000 square feet of that at $125 a square foot. You can very quickly take that cost way up or way down, depending on finishes, fixtures, all that stuff. Then we've got our design costs in there. That total budget is $15,370,000. Not in there. And one thing I know we've talked individually with several of you about is the fee for the developer overhead, general contingency, development management, etc. We throw on there a 5% fee. Have not added into the math as we're proposing that to you guys, but wanted to go ahead and point that out as well. So kind of looking at all in hard costs to the city of $15,370 plus our fee. A little bit harder to read. I apologize. This is the restricted appraisal that we did for our July meeting last year. It came in and gave the land values of all of the parcels, and it came up to right at $2,027,500. A lot of the comments we came back was, well, while our only value of those parcels is the land that the buildings are to us a cost because we've got to demolish them, there is value if someone else wanted to come in. So we went through internally and kind of looked at adding a proposed value add, which is this column right here, of giving some value towards the building. Obviously, the biggest one is City Hall, the building we're in here. So if you add all that back in together, we're at $3,429,000 all in for the land that the city is that we would be buying from the city at the end of construction of City Hall. And so the kind of the overall summary then that comes in is we've got our total, hard construction costs, the design costs, then we reduce that amount by the land sale to the development team. Somebody recommended early on, we did this on our first pass in July too. It's customary, I know, in Mount Juliet to have a per multifamily unit impact fee. We went ahead and added that. This is on our plan right now, shows between 215 and 245 units. I pegged it at 230 because it's right in the middle. And we said we could just take that per unit impact fee, apply it to this value also, and that would be the net cost to the city for this plan of $10,791,000 plus the little fee that goes to us too. So that's kind of the high level math. Again, as we really dive into the design of the building, I'm sure this will change, but there's a fair amount of work went into this. This isn't Matt licking his fingers, sticking it in the air and saying that's where costs are. The other big thing that we wanted to talk about was the property tax impact of all of this. I know that's something that I've talked to each of y'all individually on before. Right now, these properties are generating, and this is combined city and county, $7,200.14 in property taxes per year. If we go in and put a rough value on construction cost for each of the buildings that we're looking at, and again, City Hall, public, no property taxes, that gives a new annual property tax of $651,459, which is a delta of $644,245 in property taxes to the city and the county. Once again, the multifamily portion of that, I know a lot of those property taxes go towards schools. This being a standard Imagine One multifamily project, like all the other ones we do, not a huge impact on a pupil headcount. Just the type of project we bring in is geared more towards young professionals, empty nesters, young singles, folks that don't have kids. Not that there's not going to be any, but I think as of a couple of months ago at Station North, which is our project here that we did, I think there were 6 kids in that building on 220 units. So considering the property tax impact of this, that goes there. The other thing, and I can kick it over to my business partner who does economic development for Vanderbilt, is this is the direct property tax impact. As soon as we do this, all of a sudden, all the other land around this property becomes much more valuable. And then you can already see what's happened around Station North, where some of those other properties have redeveloped and their property tax basis has stepped off also. So it gets very complicated very quickly and over my head, but I'm sure he can talk about it. Is you start then looking at this downtown district and starts to sprout out up and down North Mount Juliet Road, and you start to really get a more substantial property tax basis. That's the nexus of which is right here where we stand. And that is kind of the summary of where we are. This is, again, the option with City Hall on the corner. I picked it because it was the first picture up. I ran through a lot of information very, very quickly. What questions do y'all have? Did I miss anything, my team?
That's what the new city hall would look like.
That is our proposal. Yes, sir. We are
Look
open to
anything like a
suggestions.
bank.
Okay.
I want to make that clear that there's 2 options and we're asking them to.
Yeah. So next steps and what we're hoping to do today is really we're at the point now where we need to know how to move forward. And so the first question is, which option do you guys like better? And the second option, and what we've got a MOU in front of you guys, I think it was in your agenda packets that went out, was looking at kind of working with us on 2 fronts. A, starting the rezone to put a PUD, and not a rezone, the PUD process for this city block. Obviously, the city is a fairly substantial property owner on this assemblage. So we need the city's authority and signature to go ahead and put a PUD in place, and obviously want to talk to you guys about that before. And secondly, start to design City Hall in a more concrete way to look at things like, is this what the elevation is going to look like? And start to work through that. How do we actually want to program it? Does the elevator go here? The elevator go there? And start some of those more detailed, concrete design questions to really take this project to the next level.
What can I ask this? I've seen the memorandum of understanding here, the development agreement on this, but I've not seen a lot of these numbers here that you had tonight, or at least not least not in the context of this agreement.
Sure.
So can you back up to the property tax piece?
Yes, sir.
You've got the new development revenue, 644. That's county and city, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
Do you have it broken down by the city?
I can, in a minute, I can do the math because I don't remember off the top of my head what the
it's
breakout
about
is.
5%.
I think it's about 5%. So,
And then a part of this agreement is, it looks like we've got some stuff zoning wise. That's the city that we've got to change.
well, we would need to put a PUD in place to do this project.
Okay.
And it's $32,212. It's 5%, which is about the city portion of that total tax bill. And the other thing that I did not go into that we talked a little bit about, I know individually with several of you, and as we when we talked about it in July, is the ongoing operating cost for the new building versus the collection of buildings that you have. But a figure is worth pointing out.
Right. The I guess I don't know who this question is the right question for. Can we do everything I guess that's being proposed here? And I don't really got the density numbers in here without changing our existing zoning code. Can this all be done through a PUD or so we're not having to go in and change the minimum lots or minimum acreage since this is done through CTC?
Right, we've already done.
Let me get your mic on.
Sorry.
Because we got 5 acres for CCC.
We do. We have 5 acres, but we do have that 16.1 units per acre cap. And I know you guys over at Vintage, what's your density over there?
It was much higher than that. And we would look at, we are under the Station North density by just a hair. So it would be a variance on the units per acre density. But it would be consistent with Station North.
Okay, and that's doable through the PUD process.
Yes.
That was the one thing on here that just kind of
Oh,
scared
please,
me because I'm
absolutely.
like, I got to go change things for the whole city across
No,
the board.
sir,
We
no,
do this
sir.
all through PUD.
Well, unless Miss Jennifer tells me, yeah, you do. I don't think so.
I just want to keep it around the same as Vintage Station.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm remembering correctly, the 245 units is exactly the same as Station North. So if we went to 230, then we'd be under. But I'm not positive about that. I'd have to double check. Can't remember the exact square footage of the parcel.
Vice Mayor.
All right, just got another question for you. So for option one, that I see right now in front of the display here. So what are we looking at that ground level venue right there? What would that be? Can you give some more? Yep. Yeah, if you can give me some more
Right.
detail on that.
That's probably retail. Probably retail restaurant. You might have some, we'll call it, there's a name for it that the retail guys know that you have kind of like it's a storefront, but it's kind of more office-y H&R Block or something like that. We're thinking more higher end, but we're thinking this is more retail heavy on the ground floor, retail and restaurant heavy on the ground floor, and then any office space other than City Hall would be on the higher levels.
Okay, and then the other last question, just for right now at least, option two, is there any possibility for future growth if we want to go up another level, or is it structured that way, or is it as is?
You can always build the structure of the building to support another story. In the microphone, you can always build the structure of the building to add another story. It's usually pretty expensive to do that. If you guys think you'll need additional square footage, I think the best option would be to go ahead and build it at once because it's far cheaper and less disruptive to the folks in the building.
Sure.
Would be my guess.
I'm just asking, just see
No,
what the
fair
future
question.
growth is.
Yeah. But I've seen that done where they went and said, hey, in 100 years, we may need another 5 stories. Let's beef up those columns and it'll be fine.
I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Gino, I own my home. My private property is right behind that parking garage. Do I need to recuse myself?
It's not precisely a conflict of interest, but if you want to do what they tell us lawyers to do to avoid the appearance of impropriety, And since we are transparent and don't want anyone to think you're being influenced by the fact that this property is next to yours, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Or
Though
a
it
reserve.
could decrease the value of your residential
Correct.
property.
That would be my, yeah. Did you see the parking lot right next to my house?
Yeah, I think it'd be nice. Bright lights shining in your window.
Okay. Or resolve the perception of a conflict.
Yeah.
Which is also an option.
Yes.
Thanks.
Commissioner Malay?
Just a quick question. At the 40,000 square foot building, how long do you think that would be till it maxed out? Like how many years?
It really depends on the city growth. I don't know what your city staff headcount growth forecasts look like. That was a size that when we started this process, I think, Kenny, I think you had kind of said, hey, I think we're using about 30,000 square feet now, and we're kind of tight. We think that with a purpose designed office building versus some kind of cobbled together buildings like you have now, you can get a lot more efficiency out of a similar amount of square footage that you have now. So you can fit more people in buildings designed for them. And then that gives you a 33% increase in space from kind of what you probably need today. I will not be the one to tell you how long that would last you. Kenny may know that was.
And I think that 30,000 includes public works too, which is going somewhere else maybe.
Possibly.
Any ideas, Kenny? 10 years, 20 years?
Yeah, I think it'd be at least 20 to 25 years simply because we're in about 16,000 square feet here. If you add in what they've got up the street, it may be close to 10. I don't know if you know, but
I think we added it up. It was like 27,000
Yeah.
and change.
so it would be 20 years or greater, I would think, 20 to 30 years. And if we were to find a separate building for public works and them not go in the space, it'd be even longer than that. And I have an idea I'll be pitching to the commission on that I think might make these two work well.
Just, does this mean we get to take the sewer grinder pump out of Jennifer's closet in her office?
No,
No, we have to keep that there. Okay.
I won't say who. Somebody
You
said
getting
that
some
had to be
side
there.
eye from Jennifer. I don't know if that's a. So my real question is, you got all this put together. What are we talking about a time frame?
It's a good question. So I would say that to pull everything together to do the actual PUD and have the detail needed for that PUD, we're probably looking at 6 months. That has a lot of city meetings involved with the different departments on what their planning needs. And my partner just reminded me, kind of going back to the space needs. One of the other big things that we'll do through that process is keep the floor plates as flexible as possible. So if you guys needed to adjust the space in 5 or 10 years, more cubicles, less cubicles, more conference rooms, whatever, you're not having to move structural walls to do so. You've got your grid and the walls can move fairly easily to do so. I would say that I'm going to look at my architect. When do you think we could have permits in if we went full board today? Yeah, so I'll call it a year to submit for building permits. Building like this probably takes about 15 months to build, with another 3 months of interior build out. So you're looking at probably moving folks in 2.5 years from today. Being realistic, I mean,
So you're the roads, the landscaping, all your
Yep.
stuff that goes along with it, all that will be happening simultaneously?
no, sir. Oh, good question. So that's the city hall portion.
Okay.
So the way we're phasing this building is we have designed so city hall and the city parking can be built without disturbing any existing city building. And so that 2.5 years gets all the city staff moved into the new building. At that point, the land sale from the city back to the private developer would occur we would drop the existing city buildings, and then we would build our portions beyond that. So there would be construction, or, we obviously would know pretty good certainty what that timeline would look like. So we could start design on our buildings, while City Hall is being built. But that would take another couple of years of build out, I would say. So you're realistically looking at construction on this block for probably 4 years total, starting in about a year.
Okay, and final question. You said the net cost to the city of Mountain Juliet is going to be 10,000 or 10,791,000, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That being the case, why wouldn't we just pay you guys 10,791,000 and we get out of your way and let y'all build City Hall and everything for us and done deal?
We'd certainly be open to looking at that. I mean, that becomes a kind of a city question to our city attorney, and let the attorneys work out kind of how the legal entity structure of that works best.
Well, it seems like it takes out a bunch of the moving parts if you do it that way. And y'all responsible as the developer and as the contractor, y'all would be responsible for building City Hall and building the parking.
It would basically do it as a hard bid.
If you're saying that, and if your numbers are correct, and I'm assuming they are, that means that it's going to cost the taxpayers $10,791,000 for a new building and all the stuff that goes along with that.
That's our forecast. Yes, sir.
So that being the case, why wouldn't we just give y'all, just contract with you and let you build what needs to be built?
Sure. I mean, and I think that comes down to, if that's the easiest for the city, we can look at it. That's where change orders become we'd want to figure out in advance how we would handle change orders. Because that's always the sticking point, and, cost plus or hard bid pieces. And we're happy to figure that out. Yeah.
There'd be no change orders.
No change orders. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. No change.
Well, considering the space of City Hall and the long runway for filling it up for us, I'd like to see the building design so we'd have the option to maybe lease one of the floors out for ourselves as a potential revenue generator to help cover our cost on this.
Sure.
If we're only going to need 2/3 of the building or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't see any reason that wouldn't work from our standpoint. So it's your building. You can rent half of it. Yeah.
Just
yes, that's true. It would increase the TI, because right now we're projecting one floor to be bare. But you would have a revenue to offset that, which I would assume would be more than the amount of TI.
So you're projecting one floor bare. So we would do. I guess it's a dumb question. I don't do this for a living, but you see like shell type leases with the occupant doing the build out.
So yes, you can do it. And I'm not an office guy, but I've done just enough to sound moderately intelligent. There's kind of on bare commercial space, you've got either what they call a cold dark shell. You got emergency heater. That's it. Rough plumbing, windows, doors. It's dried in, and it's not the sprinkler system isn't going to freeze in the winter. And then you have warm dry shell, where you've got some drywall up. You've probably got your bathrooms in. We have assumed cold dark shell. You can use it for storage. Again, that's what is in that budget. So when we do the shell number, that gets you a waterproofed envelope with emergency heaters and fire suppression.
It's an option.
Yep, it's absolutely an option.
Commissioner Mullally?
The $10 million last year when we had the work session, I remember that being a lot higher, so it's lower than.
It was the parking garage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was lower than what I remember. And again, a year to break ground, a year and a half to build out for City Hall.
Roughly. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, in my opinion, I think I like the concept two better.
Just one question for clarification. And I noticed, Matt, it said something about the 10,792,000 plus fee.
Yes.
What can you explain what that fee would be?
Yeah, the fee is our overhead costs, our fee to manage the process, little bit of contingency. If we're hard bidding it, that might change a little bit. But it really covers our direct cost on managing, insurance, all that stuff that comes on us as the development manager, either on behalf of the city or with the city. But that's what that 5% would go for. I mean, it's builder's profit and overhead, and general conditions and all that kind of stuff is what goes. It's on. If you did a single family house, that's what the builder charges. On a commercial development like this, is the commercial development piece. But we're not marking up per se, kind of the per square foot cost, like a if it was a true arm's length, we're flipping the building to you on spec type thing. Yeah. We had originally, and back to Commissioner Justice's comment, we'd originally been suggested to propose a cost plus arrangement. So it's the hard cost as best as we can make it, and then ours. And we would even be willing to go ahead and cap that. So if costs creep, that does not financially benefit us, because we don't want to get in a situation where our interests are not aligned as the city and us on the private side. So
I just have two quick questions. One, obviously, the land value from last year to this year,
yes.
obviously, things have gone up. So I'd like to see that number get a little bit better.
Okay.
That'd be, like one thing I am for concept too. I think it's a better process for
Okay.
development. But then the other part to this is if we're going to be looking at a turnkey process, I would also be, interested to see the same situation where we were with the police structure, which was looking at, the type of quality of the building. Are we going to be looking at a 50-year building or a 100-year building? Or are we going to be looking at a turnkey process
Sure.
that is to basically just get us the building? Because we don't want the good, better, best. We want the best for a competitive price. So that's where I'm at. The roof membrane, what type is that? The HVAC, the electrical, the long-term, the generators, the life safety devices, and so forth. So I'd like to see a little bit more as we get further into this, but
Absolutely.
that number not to all of a sudden start fluctuating all the way up to 15 or 13 million on top of it, because we're asking for what we would automatically determine as a 50-year building or a 100-year building, because this is a building that we're going to be looking at as a taxpayers to, just a one-time cost, hopefully. And then as we start expanding our departments, we can be able to move them in other areas, but this is what we're looking for.
Well, and generally that's the argument against a hard bid approach.
I understand.
Is to, it incentivizes the construction and development team to do some of those things. And, we're good guys, but budget starts getting tight.
Mhm.
That's the reason a lot of groups are going away more toward a cost plus with rigorous oversight to make sure we're not being, spendthrift. But that is the argument against a hard bid process.
I understand.
And why, candidly, we're proposing a cost plus process to begin with. And I'm not actually sure that it's that much more legally complicated. We did the same thing with the salt sheds. It was a cost plus. It was actually, that's not true, because that was no cost to the city. Different situation. My apologies.
If you see a cost plus, what kind of percentage do you see increased over that 10.7?
That's just the 5% that we talked about.
Just only a 5%.
Yeah. So it's that hard cost as best we can make them. And then, any savings we can drive goes obviously 100% to the city. But we're relationship guys. So we want to give the city the best value for its money. Because if we build you guys a dog, then you might not like me next time I stand up here.
Sure.
All right, we got 3 minutes.
Respond to this. And I ask you to speculate a little bit, but what would it, if we put this out on bid, and maybe this is a Lineberry question, what would it cost the city if we were to go out on bid, contract to have somebody come in and build that?
Well,
I mean, we had a contractor bid a rough number off our plan, or off a schematic on the size and the site and the topo. So
Okay.
the hard cost with the TI is from a GC,
Okay.
yeah,
with us
All right.
managing the process.
it just seems like that number changes when the city is requesting the price for some reason. So I
You mean it goes
can't
up?
answer that right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Shocking. All right, we have 2 minutes. Any other thing, or you want closing remarks?
Yeah, some of it. Yeah, just I think before you later this evening is a resolution to help us get started on this process. Look forward to hearing. I heard some comments that option 2 was the path you guys like to look forward to going forward, but we're eager to see and answer any questions you may have at that time on next steps.
Do you have any of these like handouts for us that we can
I am
reference?
happy to send them all to you, and I can get this to you at the end of the meeting or now.
I'd like to have it in front of me before we make a decision.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, you might see if Keith can make.
Are you looking for the numbers? And
Yeah, the whole
and
thing.
we're looking for the first step, guys. We're not looking for you guys to commit to all of this. It'll be very, we're not looking for a $10 million commitment tonight. We're looking for a, thumbs up to start the process, go with the PUD and start some design.
Okay.
But yes, we'll figure out how to get that, get you some numbers.
All right. Anything else to add? Questions, comments? All right. We will adjourn this workshop, and we have a proclamation presentation here.